Gabe, I think there's two ways that you can look at yesterday's game.
Okay.
You can go, not their best effort. Or you can go, hell yeah, wins win, and they got punched in the mouth a little bit. There was a thought of like self-inflicted errors, but the resilience they showed, the fight they showed, I'm taking that to the bank. I am running with it. I believe they will continue building on that, and I am optimistic this morning. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am in camp number 2 because my fragile little sports heart could not have handled it if the Packers lost yesterday, okay? I was struggling. I was despondent. I am in San Francisco on Friday watching the Brewers. I could not have dealt with a Brewers elimination game on Friday and then the Packers losing to the Rams on Sunday. I couldn't have handled it. So on some level, the fact that the Packers walked out of there with the victory, even though at times there were self-inflicted errors and things that I would like back, I was like, whew, okay, we survived the weekend with no further angst or issue.
No, there was angst. You're telling me there wasn't angst during the game yesterday? They're fine. This is fine.
I do think they're fine. I think that the things that we saw that we didn't love, they will continue to improve upon. And we had a lot of stuff to get to, obviously, and there's a lot of things to dive into.
Of that.
Really?
Yeah.
What keeps you from being convinced that the Packers will continue to get better a la last season, Jordan Love first half versus Jordan Love second half this year?
More. It's the one thing I'm concerned that's not going to get better is the pass rush. Like at this point, I don't know if that is going to get better. At this point, I think it's just the 4 that and they had 3 sacks yesterday, but a lot of that coming on when they had to bring pressure, when they decided that they had to blitz. And that's when you're going to put yourself in trouble against some better teams. And that's the big issue. Jordan's decision-making isn't very good right now. We can't. I don't think we can just go, oh, yeah, just like last year, he'll get better in the second half. Like, if he's the $55 million man, he's like, do I ultimately think he's going to be fine? Yes, but outside of the interception, there are other decisions that were bad.
Don't you think he is still sort of dealing with some lingering effects of that knee injury? Don't you think he is still like figuring out what he can do and what he can't do? Look, I'm not going to excuse the throwing the ball in the end zone to avoid a safety and instead door number 2 being a pick 6, points on the board for the other team. More points, obviously, than the safety would have resulted in. I can't excuse that. But I like how he responded to it. I like that he came out after that and was like, completion.
Completed his next 7 of 8 or whatever.
9, I believe, crisscrossing over into the second half as well. So I like that from your leader, from your $55 million man.
Sure, but his completion percentage is still below 60%.
Yeah, but it'll go up, I think, as the season goes on. He was without Christian Watson. He was without Romeo Doubs, which we will also continue to discuss as the show goes on.
Who knows when they're coming back? It's not like we know they're coming back anytime soon.
But even with those things stacked against them, they walked out of there with a win. Is Matthew Stafford at this stage of his game still capable of leading a game-winning drive? Yes. I think we saw it in the 2.5-minute drive that they put together before the end of the game. There was a part of me that was like, Matthew Stafford's going to do this. In fact, my son looked at me and goes, Mom, they're going to lose.
Luckily, Tutu Atwell's his best receiver. If they had better receiving options than Tutu Atwell, then yes, there's a higher chance that game ends a little bit differently yesterday.
So I walked out of there happy. Obviously, a win makes you happy. And I'm not saying that you're not happy with the win. I said, things to improve upon, yes, but I feel confident and good about this team going forward. And you're telling me pump the brakes.
Yeah. They still have to go out there and show it. They got to still go out there and prove it. Outside of Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, McKinney, Josh Jacobs. Am I missing anyone, Joshy? I think those are the 4 that I feel really good about.
Those are the safe ones.
Yeah. Just about everybody else has got massive rooms for improvement.
Massive?
Yeah.
They're 3-2.
Yeah. And the 2 times they've played good teams, they've lost.
Wait, you don't think the Rams are a good team?
They're 1-4.
No, I want to make sure that I'm understanding.
Yeah. They have a single win. I don't know how good they can be, especially without. I mean, they ran through it in the broadcast.
Do you
yesterday.
think the Bengals are a good team?
No, they are not a very good team. They're just not.
Jeez. I mean, Joe Burrow threw 5 touchdowns yesterday, and they
Sure,
lost
and
to one of the best teams in the AFC.
And threw a critical interception. Now they're 1-4. At some point, you are what your record says you are, Bill Parcells. Like, you can't be. You're 1-4. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 1-4.
Yeah, yesterday was the day of the season where now there are no more winless teams in the NFL. That's pretty great, right? Parody.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
That's what I'm like. If you are 1-4 right now, you're not a very good team. And they ran through it in the broadcast yesterday. The Rams can't be a good team without 2 of their starting offensive linemen and their 2 top wide receivers.
But aren't you capable of saying that injuries are playing a role in that? Just as you said, right? They obviously are injured at the receiver position. They're injured at the offensive line position. So you could be a good team that is dealing with injuries.
Sure, but right now, while dealing with those injuries, you know what that makes you? A bad team.
So
the Packers played a bad Rams team yesterday.
guess the question I want to nail down with you is, are the Packers a good team?
I don't know. I want to say yes, but they're not playing like a good team. They are not playing like a good team right now.
But isn't all that matters getting the win? Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, you want to break it down and you want to figure out how you can get better in these areas. I mean, like, I didn't love, this is going to sound crazy to say out loud. I didn't love the decision-making on the Jordan Love completion to Jaden Reed.
Well, either did Matt LaFleur. So if his head coach wasn't thrilled with the decision-making, I think you can be in that camp.
It worked out.
Yes.
It was very Favre-esque. It was no, okay, yes. But that doesn't mean it was a good decision. It just means it worked out. So there are things that I think Jordan needs to continue to clean up, but I am optimistic based on what I saw last year from Jordan Love and on a micro level, what I saw from him yesterday, which was make a mistake, make a bad decision, and then go out there and execute.
I guess that's the frustrating part, is that you see it. But it's even like simple completions that just go sailing, where guys are open, you just kind of like, okay, what was that? A couple of those early in the game, which is why the completion percentage is where it is.
But also, last week, we watched as he was throwing to the ground. A couple of them got picked up and were catches. A couple of them were debated whether they were catches or not. But that, when you're talking about his season-long completion percentage, you got to wrap in last week's game when we know he was not 100%, when we know he was still dealing with, can I trust this knee or not?
Sure, but also, so he's played 3 games. I understand it's a small sample size, but in the game where he was healthy, it was 50%. Right? He was 17 of 34 against the Eagles. So the one thing that I was hoping would be the easiest thing to translate from the back half of last year to the start of this year was decision-making and accuracy. And that has not translated. It just hasn't. He's throwing more interceptions. Through, what is he at, 5 now? 5 interceptions in 3 games after throwing just the 1 over the back half of last year. And the completion percentage, was close to 70%. Halfway through the season, it was below 60%. Man, he's going to have to really work his butt off to get this thing up there.
But completion percentage, I understand there is a correlation, but completion percentage isn't causation either, right? We need to make sure that we are distinguishing between Jordan Love's completion percentage in any given game does not dictate with certainty the outcome of the game. So you can sit here and say that you would like your quarterback to have a higher completion percentage because it puts him amongst the elite in the league. But at the end of the day, if you're finding other ways to win, and I could make the argument that the secondary for the Green Bay Packers, as much as you are struggling with and frustrated with the pass rush, the secondary for the Green Bay Packers is making incredible plays. And to be fair, the defense only gave up 12 points in that game. They obviously scored 19 because they had the pick 6 on the Jordan, not trying to get a safety issue. That's a pretty good day for the defense.
The defense, okay, if you want to make the argument the defense played fine yesterday, I'm just not buying that because they didn't. Again, the Rams are just really limited in what they can do. Kyren Williams still had a good game on the ground. Another back that goes over 100 yards against the Packers rushing defense. Shocker there. Again, they're without their top 2 receivers that can really make that offense special. So clearly Kyren Williams was going to be a big part of that game plan. And they really couldn't do anything to stop Kyren Williams. So that's concerning for me. Again, the back half, especially with Jair getting healthy, back end of the defense, I am not worried about. That secondary is loaded with talent. We saw it with Evan Williams yesterday. He got some more extended opportunities. He's fantastic. At some point, I think we have to question who's playing in the front 7, especially in the linebacker space, because it seems like every time that Edgerrin Cooper's on the field, he's making plays. and yet he's not on the field all that often. I'd like to see him on the field a little bit more often. I think that comes into question for me. Look, yes, it's important that you get the wins, and it's important that you start playing better football because you've got some pretty good teams coming up here. Like if the Packers play like this, I don't know if they can beat the Cardinals.
Cardinals, I think, got a win yesterday, didn't they?
They did over the 49ers. Like the Cardinals, the Cardinals are a team that can put up some points. And Kyler Murray can run around and make some plays on you.
You follow that up with the Texans, by the way, who got a win yesterday over the Bills.
Yeah, the Texans are a very good team. After that, Jacksonville, not as tough as what you thought.
But then the Lions.
And then the Lions. So you're starting to enter the stretch of the schedule where you're going to have these good measurement
I'm going to tell you right now, we did not think that the stretch of the schedule would include the Cardinals, did we? We were not like, oh, that stretch where the Cardinals. No. We were like...
I mean, you kind of reverse. I mean, you're basically flipping out what we thought maybe Jacksonville could be and just kind of placing that on the Cardinals.
800-990-3776. How are you feeling this morning about the Green Bay Packers win yesterday? They did get the win, 24-19. Did Jordan have moments where you were like... yes, that happened. Absolutely. And yet they got the win. And I think you build off of the second half of the game. You build off of what Jordan Love did after he made some weird decisions, after he threw some balls that you'd like to have back, after they made some mistakes on offense and say, oh, they did respond. Oh, great. They have it in them. Got punched in the mouth a little bit. Now, did they punch themselves in the mouth? Yes, they did. Well, right? This wasn't like the Brewers in game 1 where the Mets punched them in the mouth and they just didn't respond.
The problem I have is you thought you would be able to build off of what they did in the second half last week against Minnesota. And they didn't. They didn't in the first half this week. So that doesn't really carry over. That's the issue I have. Like, yes, he played better in the second half, but how do I know that's actually going to be able to carry over? Because you played really well in the second half against Minnesota, minus the Favre-esque interception in the end zone that you decided to chuck up. Other than that, he played really well in the second half of Minnesota.
And they lost.
And then he played really bad in the first half here. So I don't know if that can necessarily carry over week to week. Because he just showed that it doesn't.
I think more so what carries over is the mindset of getting the win, despite not being at your best. I think that carries over. It doesn't mean you're wanting to make mistakes, but it means if you do make mistakes, you can recover from them and walk out of there with a victory, which again is the end result, or is the end goal rather, and that was the result yesterday. 800-990-3776. I'm curious where people are this morning, because Gabe is happy with the win, especially on the road, man. You don't sneeze at, you don't scoff at.
You take the win.
Absolutely take the win. But you are saying the way that they got the win does not give you a ton of confidence going into this stretch of games.
What are our overall goals for the Packers? What are our overall thoughts of the Packers, right?
Got to be a playoff team, right?
Yeah.
Got to make the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
I would love to see them in the Super Bowl.
And yes, it's early October. You can't get to the Super Bowl in early October. But they are not playing like a team that it has those types of aspirations right now. Now, again, they can turn it around, but there are some deficiencies on this roster. The thing that makes me most nervous is that front seven. I just keep thinking, like, maybe this will be the week that Rashawn Gary shows up. I mean, at what point are we concerned about Rashawn Gary? Can we be concerned right now?
I think we're long past that.
Because I don't know how you turn that around. How does Rashawn Gary suddenly become the player that we all thought he was going to be this year?
The thing is, he's not even as good as he was last year, fresh off an ACL.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. You did see them running more stunts on that defensive front because they are not they're not just beating their man.
Yeah.
Which is they're having to get creative up there, which opens up some run lanes if you make a bad decision for Jeff Hafley. Because you got guys
if you
call it
the wrong time,
right.
Next thing you know, there goes Kyron Williams again.